Hello and welcome to the Annual Meeting of Shareholders of Allied Gold Corporation. Please note that today's meeting is being recorded. If you participate in today's meeting and disclose personal information, you'll be deemed to consent to the recording, transfer, and use of same. If you disclose personal information of another person in today's meeting, you'll be deemed to represent and warrant to Computershare and the corporation that you first obtained all required consents for the disclosure, recording, transfer, and use of such personal information from all appropriate persons before your disclosure. At the end of the meeting, we'll have a question and answer session. Shareholders or their properly appointed proxy holders can submit questions or comments at any time by clicking on the Q&A tab. It is now my pleasure to turn today's meeting over to Peter Marrone, Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Allied Gold. The floor is yours.
Good morning. As mentioned, I'm Peter Marrone, the Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Allied Gold Corporation. I'm very pleased to welcome you to this annual general meeting of shareholders of the company. We are hosting this meeting with a live webcast allowing for broader participation by our shareholders and their duly appointed proxy holders, regardless of their geographical location. Participants can join from anywhere, ask questions, and vote in real time. And I refer you to our conference call and presentation delivered yesterday on our second quarter financial results, which is on our website, and it provides shareholders with a fulsome update on the company's business and operations. Today, we propose to deal only with the formal matters required to be brought before the shareholders. I will act as chairman of this meeting, and I now officially call the meeting to order and appoint Sofia Tsakos, our Chief Legal Officer and Corporate Secretary of the company, to act as Secretary of the meeting, and Computershare Investor Services, through its representatives, Daniela Munoz, to act as scrutineer for the meeting. The notice of meeting was mailed on July 17 of this year to shareholders of record of July 7 of this year. The declaration with respect to that mailing will be kept with the records of the company. Meeting materials, including the notice of meeting, form of proxy, and management information circular were made available on our website at www.alliedgold, that's one word, alliedgold.com, and under the company's profile on SEDAR. And of course at www.sedarplus.ca. I do not propose to read the notice of that meeting. Now, based on the preliminary scrutineer's report, proxies were received from holders of a sufficient number of common shares to constitute a quorum. I declare that a quorum is present and this meeting is properly constituted for the transaction of business, and the final report on attendance will be retained, as is customary for us, with the records of the company. Questions regarding the operations or financial status of the company may be submitted at any time during this webcast and will be answered at the end of the meeting. Questions can be submitted using the Q&A icon that is located on the right side of your screen. As we indicated in our circular, all questions submitted will be moderated before being addressed. Please note that there may be a slight delay in questions being received by us after they have been submitted, and please follow the instructions in the virtual platform, which will ask you to indicate your name, which entity you represent, and confirm whether you are a registered shareholder or a duly appointed proxy holder. Questions can only be submitted by a registered shareholder or duly appointed proxy holder. When reading out a question on a motion, we will note the name of the shareholder or proxy holder submitting the question. Voting will be conducted by electronic ballot to allow sufficient time for voting, and the polls will be open at the beginning of the meeting. Again, only registered shareholders and their duly appointed proxy holders who have properly logged in with their control numbers or username will be asked to vote and be able to see motions. If you are a registered shareholder and you have already voted by proxy, you do not need to vote again unless you wish to change your vote. If you plan to vote at the meeting, you may choose to vote immediately or as we progress through the meeting but prior to the conclusion of the meeting. To vote, simply click on your choice for or withhold. A confirmation message will appear to show your vote has been received. To change your vote, simply change your selection. The votes you have submitted at the time the poll closes will be recorded. Totals in favor or withheld will be tallied by the scrutineers once the voting is completed, and as chair, I will report on the outcome at the end of the meeting. And I now declare the polls open. And I now place before the meeting the financial statements of the company for the year ended December 31 of last year, together with a report of the auditors of the company on those financial statements. The financial statements and the auditor's report were made available to shareholders of the company in advance of the meeting, and I do not propose to read them at this meeting. However, you can obtain a copy of our financial statements on our website, again, www.alliedgold.com. Proceeding to the election of directors of the company, as a result of the company's majority voting policy, the shareholders will be asked to vote for the election of each individual director. Our general bylaws provide for an advance notice requirement for the nomination of directors in certain circumstances. The company has not received notice of any director nominations in connection with the meeting within the prescribed periods of that policy and bylaw. Accordingly, the only persons eligible to be nominated at the meeting for election to the board are the following 10 nominees as disclosed in the Management Information Circular. Let me read those names. John Beardsworth, John Begeman, Bear Chenard, Justin Dibb, Richard Graff, myself, Peter Maroney, Daniel Racine, James Sadowski, Dino Totaro, and Umar Toguyeni. I now move for the nominations of each of the 10 individuals named as directors of the company for the ensuing year or until their successors are appointed. And the next item on business on the agenda is the appointment of auditors of the company for the ensuing year. And I move for the appointment of KPMG LLP, Chartered Professional Accountants, as auditors of the company. As we mentioned, voting today is being conducted by electronic ballot, and I will now take a moment for registered shareholders and appointed proxy holders to complete their voting. For those who have not yet cast your votes, please do so now. We will provide registered shareholders and duly appointed proxy holders a few moments to complete the electronic ballots if you should so wish. Once the electronic balloting closes, the voting page will disappear and your votes will be automatically submitted. Ladies and gentlemen, I understand that the scrutineers have now closed the polls and voting is completed. And I have been advised by the scrutineers that based on the votes represented by proxy at this meeting, a sufficient number of votes have been cast in favor of each of the matters brought before shareholders as dealt with in our Management Information Circular. I declare these matters carried. I direct that the final results of each poll be included with the minutes of the meeting and filed on SEDAR and EDGAR as required. Now, as we do not have a formal presentation this year, we have referred you to our second quarter presentation from yesterday, which is also on our website. That has a detailed presentation on our business. However, I would like to provide some comments, a statement as Chairman, Chief Executive Officer, and significant shareholder of the company. Let me begin by saying that we are grateful for the support of our shareholders, employees, local communities, various other stakeholders, service providers, and others. Corporate transactions can create dislocation, although they can also create clarity. On the dislocation, we recognize the efforts undertaken by host nations, employees, service providers, and others. Thank you for sticking with us. We recognize that for some others, this can be disruptive. Resources have to be allocated and then reallocated. And fortunately, our business has shown resilience, and I wish to also thank our management and board of directors for their Herculean efforts, and particularly in setting forth that resilience in our business. And on the clarity point, we can see more clearly the business opportunity, prospects, and value proposition. And again, I encourage everyone to go on our website to look at our second quarter presentation and the commentary made with our second quarter results yesterday for that value proposition. We look forward to advancing our business, communicating with our stakeholders, and advancing our plans. We are confident we will further enhance the value of our business, all of which will be reflected in improved and increasing production, increasing cash flows, and then in what I believe to be true, which is share price appreciation. And we will manage our business in a safe and secure way, improving the lives and well-being of the people in local communities and host nations. And that clarity also allows us to assess where changes should be made and improvements can occur. As our Kurmuk mine will soon come into production, we see a positive transformative event that confirms to us that we are truly that unique, matured, mid-tier company underpinned by tier one assets. With that financial and operational maturity, our business relations get better, our engagements with stakeholders deepen, and we improve our associations. We are delighted to be in the host nations in which we operate. We are delighted to be engaged with local communities. We are looking forward to our continuing engagements as a significant public company in the precious metals mining sector. We are committed to board refreshment, including diversity. We publicly filed our commitment on this point, about which shareholders should be aware. We expect to see those commitments honored, allowing us to refresh and improve our board of directors further. We look forward to meeting with you, our shareholders, again next year at our annual meeting for that year. Thank you for attending let me say it differently. Thank you for attending your meeting of shareholders. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, as my comments, let me open up the floor to any questions. Again, if there are any questions, please follow the directions on the screen, and we will look forward to addressing any questions that you may have. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm being told that there are no questions coming from the floor. I hope that this meeting has been informative. I will look forward to meeting all of you as our shareholders at the forthcoming meeting next year. The meeting has now been concluded, and I move to close this meeting, and so I will now turn the meeting back over to the operator. Operator, thank you very much.
This concludes the meeting. You may now disconnect.